Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Smart Money Group and Kennedy Financial Services in Eastland, Texas. Tune in every week as we share important information to help you and your family live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, legacy and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
Welcome into Life Planning 101. My name is Angela Robinson with Smart Money Group and Kennedy Financial Services out of the little bitty town of Eastland, Texas. And we're going to be talking about the big news, which is what isn't new in Washington, D.C. Well, it might be easier to answer the question, what isn't new, than what is new in D.C. I don't know about you, but if you've been trying to keep up with everything that has been going on since the inauguration, it is like drinking from a fire hose on a daily basis. So we thought it might be beneficial to give you a pulse on some of the things that we're seeing that are important for the families that we serve. Yes, it is crazy. I actually literally considered giving up all my social media for Lent, and I really had to reconsider that situation because I don't know how I'm going to find all of the information that's getting put out on a daily basis. It's unreal. And I will give you a resource at the end of the show for what I did find. So you're definitely going to want to stay in tune for that. But we've got 5 things here. And I'm just going to, full disclosure, we're not going to cover everything. There's absolutely no way. But we are going to go through some of the things that we're seeing as the most important. And the first, by the way, I'm going to start with my absolute favorite. Awesome. Is the on-again, off-again Corporate Transparency Act that we hit so hard on at the end of the year that was going to be enforced with these huge fines. I think it was like close to $600 a day and even a potential to be thrown in prison if you weren't doing the reporting on your entities and the beneficial ownership of those entities. And oh, by the way, any changes that you had to the entity itself or the beneficial owner, including just a simple address that is not reported within 30 days, would also induce fines. Scary. I mean, absolutely scary. I don't know how in the world you would actually keep up with this. It was unreal. So currently, this again is my favorite, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent threw this out the door and said, we're not going to enforce this at this time. Yay! Hallelujah! Hallelujah. So what does that mean? Because that's not the end of it. Just because he says we're not going to enforce it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't still exist. FinCEN, who is in charge of all the Corporate Transparency Act and Patriot Act and all these things, is actually supposed to go back and release a new final rule, and their deadline for that is March 21st. I say that, and then I'm also going to tell you at the same time that both the House and the Senate have thrown out proposals to seek changes or elimination altogether. Huge win for businesses, though, that this is not going to be enforced, and we will definitely be keeping you up to date, but it should just help you take a deep breath and not feel the pressure about when, what, where, how, and, oh, by the way, if I missed it, fine or prison. Okay. So there's number 1. Let's go to number 2. Very close second in the way of ranking. And this actually goes back to before Biden left office. I think that's really important to note here. So we've got one out of the Trump administration so far. This one's out of the Biden administration. He signed what's called the Social Security Fairness Act into law. Okay. Now this act is awesome. I think it's been sought after for years and years and years because it's a provision that is going to help our teachers, our firefighters, our law enforcement, and other hugely contributory government employees. There's these nasty 2 little provisions that have been in the Social Security rules, so to speak, for years. One is called the windfall elimination provision, and one is called the government pension offset. And basically what they do is they reduce Social Security benefits for those who receive a pension not covered by Social Security, like a teacher, like a firefighter, like law enforcement. And it would potentially reduce that for their spouse too if they were to pass away, which that's the government pension offset side. And so a lot of people perceive this as a highly unfair thing. Now, obviously, some of these people have not paid into the Social Security system. So that is got to have a question about how all that works. But with this going into effect, it's expected that 3.2 million people are going to benefit from this legislation. And it's also important to note that it actually goes back to January 2024. It's retroactive benefits. So brush up on the rules if this could affect you or your spouse, because you might have some money that needs to be coming to you, and there might be something you need to be doing on this. Just so you know, go to www.kennedy-financial.com. Make sure you're signed up for our weekly Life Lessons newsletter. We'll have a link in here where you can read more about this, as well as the Corporate Transparency Act. You're going to the blog titled What Isn't New in Washington, D.C. when you do that. Okay. So number 3, we talked about Corporate Transparency Act. We talked about Social Security Fairness Act. Let's talk about retirement savings. Now, again, this isn't newly written for 2025, but it is newly effective. It was actually a result of the Secure Act in 2022, Secure Act 2.0. There was a Secure Act and there was Secure Act 2.0. This is out of Secure Act 2.0 in 2022. And it involves your retirement savings. And by the way, if you are a company owner, it's just a kind of a side gig for you, and you have 401ks, et cetera, you definitely need to know the rules, because there's an automatic enrollment that goes into effect this year. There's Roth contributions. There's all other things you need to make sure you're brushed up on, talking with your administrator about. But if you are an employee that contributes to a 401k plan and you are age 60 this year, age 61 this year, and age 62 this year, not turning 63, okay, very important, funky little rules, imagine that, never has easy, you have an additional catch-up contribution in addition to your other catch-up contribution. It's about 150%. So it takes your catch-up contribution of $7,500 up to $11,250 this year. So make sure you're maxing out your retirement. If you don't know, ask. Do it early so you're not in crunch time and you don't lose the opportunity to do this. If you make a certain amount, I think automatically it's going over into a Roth anyways. But obviously, if you haven't worked on tax diversification, that's also something you might want to look at with this. Is, you know, it's a great year. It's expected that we're going to get an extension on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which we'll talk about just in a minute. So taxes should remain at the levels that they're at now. And so this might be an awesome way for you to work on that tax diversification before you retire and not have just this ticking tax bomb, so to speak. So awesome opportunity there. Let's go to number 4. So the executive orders. There's been a couple. I don't know if you've noticed. Oh my goodness. Speaking of social media, I saw this I Love Lucy meme, and I'm still laughing about it. I think I've told this story 8 million times. You may have heard it directly from me, but I Love Lucy. So there is just part of that. I sat there and watched episode after episode when I broke my tibia in high school, and I love that show. It makes me laugh so hard. But if you remember the famous sitcom, you probably remember the one with the chocolate factory, right? And here's Lucy and Ethel, and they're wrapping these individual chocolates on this conveyor belt. And she's not doing so well as Lucy normally does. And so she resorts to just eating the chocolates, stuffing them in her mouth. And then when that runs out, she goes to her apron and starts sticking them in her apron and everywhere else, right? And I feel like that's the sentiment. It was a meme that said, this is what it's like getting Trump's executive orders. And that is so true on a daily basis. There's so many coming at us. It's hard to digest for any person, any group of people. And it's hard to digest for our financial markets. So, people have been asking me, what are you thinking with the markets? And I said, they've got a lot of things they want to get done. Obviously, our deficit's unsustainable. If they're successful with this, I don't know anybody that doesn't have at least like a eek when a Band-Aid gets ripped off, right? So we're at least going to experience that. There's no way we cannot. But there's so many things going out of Washington. I think the financial markets are sitting there going, are we pro-business or are we not? Are we cutting the deficit or are we not? because every day is a new regulation of cuts, regulation cuts, spending cuts, energy expansion, tariffs. Oh, that's this week, right? We're watching the markets, and it's been a fun little roller coaster. It's actually, remember the old adage, buy low, sell high. Anyway, just a side note. But the important thing to remember is to look for the opportunities in all of this. And because I think you could look at this and you could just be like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming, and do nothing. And doing nothing may be the worst thing you can do. It may be the best thing you can do. I'm not sure about your unique situation. But there was an American author named Jay Samat, and he says, every threat to the status quo is an opportunity in disguise. Well, right now, the status quo is being a little bit threatened. I don't know if you've noticed that. So it is an opportunity, and it's definitely a time to be looking for what is out there. I know our team at Kennedy Financial Services is looking at all kinds of opportunities in the financial markets right now because of the changes that are going on. So absolutely wonderful time in history to be experiencing. I don't think we'll ever experience anything like this again, but I'm not going to say it's not going to be painful. So let's just hold on for dear life in that roller coaster and see what happens out of it, right? And that's not partisan. That's just capitalist. If we're going to have deregulation, if we're going to have lower taxes, those are pro-business. Tariffs, on the other hand, not pro-business, and we know that. So there's some sides to both sides of this coin, and I think it's important for people just to look at what it is and get your politics out of the way and see opportunities for what they are. Number 5. So there is something, believe it or not, that is moving at snail pace out of Washington, D.C. Yep. Snail pace. And that is the extension of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, which everyone just assumed was going to be this major slam dunk after November, right? Because we got the House, we got the Senate, we got the president. There should be no reason that we can't extend these tax cuts. And oh, by the way, do this with the first resolution bill. So I don't know if you are aware of how a reconciliation bill, I don't know if you're aware how Washington works, but typically in a year, Congress gets one reconciliation bill, and that's about the budget, and that can be passed with a simple majority. Well, we were left over a bill from last year, so they get 2 reconciliation bills this year. And there's a little bit going on with this in the way of the political works, because I think Trump is thinking they shouldn't waste the extra simple majority bill for this year. They need to get everything done in this bill. And when they first came out, they weren't going to do that. They weren't going to extend these cuts. And boy, did the markets see that. And they thought, uh-oh, we got problems again in one party that we thought all this was going to happen, right? But this is important to you because not only does it affect the stock markets, but it also affects that 20% pass-through deduction for businesses. It affects your tax brackets. It affects your tax rates. It affects your gift taxes, all in a major way. And then there's all these little add-ons that he's wanting to get pushed through Congress about the SALT. If you remember, the state and local taxes being capped at $10,000, they want to try to get that fixed. And then there's the no tax on tips, and then there's the no tax on Social Security. There's all these things going on, and it's a conundrum because no one really knows what is going to happen. There's proposals that are getting thrown out, but what are they going to actually do? Because at the same time, Trump is also saying balance the budget. Balance the budget. Well, there's a problem with balancing the budget, and it's called we're kind of fat on the hog. I don't know if you've noticed that. So there's a lot to get done, and there's a very short period of time to do this because they've got the debt ceiling to deal with. And so I don't know. I got nothing for you. These, when you look at what they want to get done in this bill, from balancing the budget to border security to increased defense spending, plus adding more tax cuts to the pipe dream of making the Tax and Jobs Act permanent, which, by the way, is a pipe dream because they have to make sure that they can offset it with, I think it's in 10 years, and they have to have a plan for that. That's a lot to get done in this period of time, right? And then Senate had a plan to get this done in 2 bills. Like I said, Trump had a different plan, so they wasted a period of time. And now I think they're all back on track with the same sentiment, but now they're up against this deadline and it's not going well. Needless to say, this is working its way through Congress. The good thing is that I do believe, because it is a partisan bill, It doesn't have to be bipartisan. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they'll get things done. We don't get downgraded on our bonds again, and they get things moving along. And if you're a geek like me and you want to track this or understand this more, or understand what's at stake with the permanency of the Tax and Cuts and Job Acts, we've got a great link for that. Again, visit us online, www.kennedy-financial.com. Sign up for our weekly life lessons newsletter, and you've got that link there to be able to access that. So I promised you a little bonus at the beginning of the show, and that is, how the heck do you keep up with all these executive orders coming out of Washington, D.C.? Well, boy, did I find a gem, and I am so happy about it. There's a law firm called Holland & Knight, and I'm familiar with them because I've heard from many of their lawyers. I've heard from founders and partners themselves on several occasions in regard to what is going on in Washington, D.C. and taxes front and center as some of the things that I go to on an annual basis for educational purposes. Absolutely amazing. So I know they're a great resource to use, and they have a wonderful chart that outlines these executive orders and summarizes them so you can really understand them. It's nonpartisan. There's no sway to it, which is the hardest thing these days, isn't it? Is that if I look on this media, it says it this way, and I look on this media, it says, I just want the facts. I just want the facts so I can assess it for myself, and I can figure out what we need to be advising people on with the way their money and their taxes and et cetera, et cetera. So this is really good. Again, we've got that link inside of the newsletter this week, so you'll be able to have access to that. But it's really, really good, and I highly recommend that you go to the horse's mouth to be able to see what's coming out of Washington and make your own assessments about things. So, I'll end with this. Whether you like it or you don't like it, change is here! Exclamation point. Jack Canfield. Okay, so he is the author of all those chicken soup books, one of my favorite authors. He said this. He said, change is inevitable. You can either resist it and potentially get run over by it, or you can choose to cooperate with it, adapt to it, and learn how to benefit from it. But when you embrace change, you will begin to see it is an opportunity for growth. By the way, this is the same message that we were giving in the last 4 years. It doesn't change, except that it does change. That is the thing. The pendulum is always going to swing in Washington, and it is up to you to utilize the time that you have with each pendulum swing in a way that you can look for opportunity and capitalize on it. So I fully suspect that we're going to see more of the same coming out of Washington. I fully suspect that Lucy's going to need a partner to fill her apron with. She'll have to pull Ethel over to get some help there before we actually are able to breathe and our markets are able to understand what's going on. Like I said, some of it's going to be good. Some of it's not going to be good. Some of it may produce immediate benefits and some of it may hurt. And that's what we can't control. The thing we can control is being proactive and be ready to embrace it. So if you're not, that's what you need to be asking yourself. What's the first step I need to take? And it might be just a simple call to us to say, what do I need to be doing to making sure my plan is aligned with what's going on today and helping me continue to live life on purpose for my future. My name is Angela Robinson. God bless you. Have a great week. And be sure to join us next week. We have a very special guest. I'm very excited about this. He is a certified exit planning advisor, and he's going to be talking about exiting your business and getting it ready to exit, getting it attractive to exit, not just after the effect. So you definitely want to, even if you're not thinking about exiting your business in the next 10 years, you still need to listen to this. It's going to be amazing. So God bless you. Have a great week and join us right here next week on Life Planning 101.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Smart Money Group and Kennedy Financial Services. If you have questions, you can email them to lifeplanning@kennedy-financial.com. Don't forget to learn how our sister company can assist you with all of your tax and consulting needs. You can find out more at briscoeandassociates.com. Be sure to tune in next week for more Life Planning 101. The opinions expressed herein are those of the firm and are subject to change without notice. The opinions referenced are as of the date of publication and are subject to change due to changes in the market or economic conditions and may not necessarily come to pass. Any opinions, projections, or forward-looking statements expressed herein are solely those of the author, may differ from the views or opinions expressed by other areas of the firm, and are only for general informational purposes as of the date indicated. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Smart Money Group LLC. Kennedy Financial Services and Smart Money Group LLC are separate entities and are not owned or controlled by Calton & Associates Incorporated.